Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदाति नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशकारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 23, Devotee Lamentation. So, we are reading the purport. Yeah, please continue.
Purport: the wife is expected to be the same category as husband. She must be prepared to follow the principles of the husband, and then there will be happy life. If the husband is a devotee and the wife is materialistic, there cannot be any peace in the home. The wife must see the tendencies of the husband and must be prepared to follow him. From Mahabharata, we learn that when Gandhari understood that her would-be husband, Dhritarashtra, was blind, she immediately began to practice blindness herself. Thus she covered her eyes and played the part of a blind woman. She decided that since her husband was blind, she must also act like a blind woman. Otherwise, she would be proud of her eyes, and her husband would be seen as inferior. The word Samanuvrata indicates that it is the duty of a wife to adopt the special circumstances in which the husband is situated. Of course, if the husband is as great as Kardama Muni, then a very good result accrues from following him. But even if the husband is not a great devotee like Kardama Muni, it is the wife's duty to adapt herself according to his mentality. That makes married life very happy. It is also mentioned herein that by following the strict vows of a chaste woman, Princess Devahūti became very skinny, and therefore her husband became compassionate. He knew that she was the daughter of a great king and yet was serving him just like an ordinary woman. She was reduced in health by such activities, and he became compassionate and addressed her as follows. Hare Krishna.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that this is how one is expected to follow Samanuvrata of the same category. And these verses fit exactly very well to a Guru Shishya relationship, right? So the disciple should be of the Samanuvrata as one's spiritual master is, imbibing the mood of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada says this is how, uh, in this case, the great daughter, this is great Devahūti, although she was the daughter of the great king, Swayambhu Manu, the daughter of the emperor herself, and still she followed these principles. Prabhupada says here, interesting point, that one has to follow the principle irrespective of the result. So if somebody is as great as the Kardama Muni, then one will get the result like what the Devavati got. But still, Prabhupada gives another example here of Gandhari. Now Gandhari's husband is Dhritarashtra, and he was not as great as Kardama Muni. In fact, Dhritarashtra is known for the weakness. But still, simply by following the process, Gandhari is considered as the one of the top personalities who are pratasmaraniya, to be remembered in the morning. So there is importance of following the process. And this is what the word Gauravena means. Needless to say, The word in between is long, long time. So by performing this austerity, Devahūti became very skinny, and this was, and then Kardama Muni, he realized, and then the word here is prema gadgadaya vacha. With the with great compassion, he was overwhelmed by devotion of Devahūti, and Kardama Muni began to speak. Kardama uvacha, text 6. तुष्टोऽहमदा तव मानवी मानदाय शुश्रूषया परमया परया च भक्त्या यो देहिनां मयनीतिवसृत्सदेहो नावेक्षितः समुचितः क्षपितुं मदर्थे. Translation.
Translation. Kardama Muni said, O respectful daughter of Swayambhu Manu, today I am very much pleased with you for your great devotion and most excellent loving service. Since the body is so dear to embodied beings, I am astonished that you have neglected your own body to use it on my behalf. Purport. It is indicated here that one's body is very dear. Yet Devhuti was so faithful to her husband that not only did she serve him with great devotion, service, and respect, but she did not even care for her own health. That is called selfless service. It appears that Devhuti had no sense pleasure even with her husband, otherwise, she would not have deteriorated in health. Acting to, acting to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, she continually assisted him, not caring for her bodily comfort. It is the duty of a faithful and chaste wife to help her husband in every respect, especially when the husband is engaged in Krishna consciousness. In this case, the husband also amply rewarded the wife. This is not to be expected by a woman who is the wife of an ordinary person. Hare Krishna.
So now here, Kardama Muni, he began to glorify Devahūti. O respectful daughter of the Swayambhuva Manu. So here the word used is the Manavi, and she is really a Manavi. Manavi means daughter of Manu, and that is Manavi. He says, Kardama Muni says, I am very pleased by your great devotion and the most excellent loving devotional service. Body is dear to everyone, and I am astonished that you have completely neglected body to serve me, to facilitate my devotional service. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that one's body is very dear to everyone. But the service before self, and this was exemplified by Devahūti. So she did not take care of even her health to facilitate Kardama Muni's engagement in spiritual elevation, not caring for the bodily comfort. And Prabhupada says that, and then she was amply rewarded by Kardama. One last line. This is not to be expected by a woman who is a wife of an ordinary person. Okay, so this is the wake-up call for us. That these are like the exemplary husband and wife couple directly. So we don't have any of these qualifications. Neither anybody is like Kardama Muni, neither we can expect somebody like Devahūti. So this is the Bhagavatam will give an example which is like the out of world examples. So this is the example of Kardama Muni and Devahūti. But we can take inspiration, and one can be equally dedicated, devoted to one's spiritual master. Text 7. ये मे स्वधर्म निरतस्य तपस्समाधि विद्यात्मयोग विजिता भगवत् प्रसादा तानेव ते मद अनुसेवया वरुद्धान् दृष्टिं प्रपञ्च यान शोकान्. Translation.
Kardama Muni continued, I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, which are free from fear and lamentation, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Now just look at them. I am giving you the transcendental vision to see how nice they are. Purport. Devahūti engaged only in the service of Kardama Muni. She was not supposed to be so advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness, but imperceptibly she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see nor experience. Automatically, she achieved these graces of the Lord. What are the graces of the Lord? It is stated here that the graces of the Lord are abhaya, free from fearfulness. In the material world, if someone accumulates $1 million, he is always full of fear because he is always thinking, what if the money is lost? But the benediction of the Lord, Bhagavad Prasad, is never to be lost. It is simply to be enjoyed. There is no question of loss. One simply gains and enjoys gaining. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. When one achieves the grace of the Lord, the result is that sarva dukkhani, all distresses, are destroyed. When situated in the transcendental position, one is freed from the two kinds of material diseases, hankering and lamentation. This is also stated in Bhagavad Gita. After devotional life begins, we can achieve the full result of love of Godhead. Love of Krishna is highest perfection of Bhagavad Prasad or divine mercy. This transcendental achievement is so greatly valuable that no material happiness can compare to it. Prabodhananda Saraswati said that if one achieves the grace of the Lord Chaitanya, he becomes so great that he does not care a fig even for the demigods. He thinks of monism as hellish, and for him the perfection of controlling the senses is as easy as anything. Heavenly pleasures become to him no more than stories. Actually, there is no comparison between material happiness and transcendental happiness. By the grace of Kardama Muni, Devahūti experienced actual realization simply by serving. We get a similar example in the life of Narada Muni. In his previous life, Narada was a maidservant's son, but his mother was engaged in the service of great devotees. He got the opportunity to serve the devotees, and simply by eating the remnants of their foodstuff and carrying out their orders, he became so elevated that in his next life he became the great personality Narada. For the spiritual achievement, the easier path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to serve him with heart and soul. That is the secret of success. As stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his 8 stanzas of prayer to the spiritual master, Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasada. By serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. By serving her devotee husband, Kardama Muni, Devotee shared in his achievements. Similarly, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously.
Kardama, he began, Kardama continued. I have achieved the blessings of the Lord in discharging my own religious life of austerity, meditation, and Krishna consciousness. Swadharma niratas tapasamadhibhi. Although you have not yet experienced these achievements, I shall offer them all to you because you are engaged in my service. Just look at them. So now here, Kardama Muni, he is personally engaged in devotional service, and Devahūti is simply assisting Kardama Muni in facilitating his devotional service. Kardama Muni became very advanced by the process of engagement in the tapasamadhi ityadi. What is the gain for Devahūti? The gain here is whatever was achieved by Kardama Muni was naturally offered to Devahūti. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Devahūti was engaged only in the service of Kardama Muni. She was not supposed to be advanced in austerity, ecstasy, meditation, or Krishna consciousness. But imperceptibly, she was sharing her husband's achievements, which she could neither see nor experience. So, what are these achievements? The first achievement Prabhupada writes here is Abhayam. Abhayam means life free from fearfulness. So this is abhayam. This is very important. So, the life is filled with danger. Prabhupada gives example of somebody is always worrying about his bank balance may be lost, the life may be lost. But a devotee of the Lord, there is no danger. Why? Because technically he understands that, jatasya dhruvam mrityu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. This is not anybody's last life. There is a life after death, which is based on the quality of one's activities in this life. And because in this life we are being Krishna conscious, we are trying to devote it to the Supreme Lord, the next life is going to be even better, if not directly the spiritual world. So this is Bhagavat Prasada, fearlessness. And this is a devotee enjoys throughout his life. Neither there is hankering or lamentation. Life is filled with hankering and life is filled with lamentation. We can see even such a personality as great as Hiranyakashipu, who used to rule entire universe, but his life was filled with hankering. Just one thing did not go his way. What was that? Prahlad not obeying. Just one person in the universe was not obeying him. That what it means is that you put up some Twitter or Facebook post, and the 10 million people like your post, appreciate you. Just one person puts a dislike comment. And the Hiranyakashipu was so very harassed. He was so very threatened by this disobedience of Prahlad. And that's why there is appearance of, to avoid the fearlessness, there is appearance of Narsimhadev. So today is a Narsimha Jayanti. Narsimhadev Bhagwan ki jai. So this is another blessing, that becoming free from hankering and lamentation. Bhagavad Gita says this, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. Right. At the same time, although there is no hankering and no lamentation, one has to engage in one's varnashrama activities very well according to one's age and propensities. So this has to be age appropriate. The transcendental achievement is very, very valuable compared to the material achievement. And then Srila Prabhupada gives example of Prabodhananda Saraswati, that he is saying, Kaivalyam narakayate, tridashapur akasha pushpayate, Vidhi Mahendradisya Kitayate. Prabhupada quotes this, that the great positions may appear just insignificant by this transcendental achievement. This was the achievement of Kardama Muni. Although Devotee personally did not experience this, but she was also rightfully claiming of these achievements, although she neither realized, neither she experienced. So in one of the very recent yatras, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was making very profound point. Maharaj was describing that devotees of the Lord, they are very advanced by the virtue of chanting the holy names, meditation, by service to the deities, service to the Vaishnava as a community, and by their activities of devotional service. But the Lord conceals the advancement of a devotee from the devotee himself. Why? Because the devotee should not become proud. Like somebody who is in some yoga marga, hatha yoga or this or that, and he is practicing something for 20 years, right? And then he will get some siddhi. He will be able to read minds of the people. He will be able to lift himself up and defy the law of gravity. And one can materially see the yogic advancement. But this is not the case with the devotee. Why? Because this is the special mercy of the Lord, so that the devotee always remains humble, and he is rooted, he is grounded in his sadhana and humility. So here one can say Devahūti was also in the similar position. So by the grace of Kardama Muni, Devahūti experienced the actual realization simply by serving. So this is a very profound point, that we may not be very powerful, we may not be very qualified, we may not be very, very advanced, but simply by offering service to the advanced, simply by becoming instrument of the personality who are Mahat, we can attain almost the similar result. It is just like the knife of the surgeon. The surgeon, he has to go through the the entire grilling studies of 12th, and then MBBS, and then MD, MS, then super specialty. And what is the knife's qualification? Is simply a metal, okay, right? But when the knife agrees to become the instrument of the surgeon, he shares the equal glory of saving the life of somebody. So we may not be surgeon, we may not be qualified like a surgeon, but we can always become like a knife. Prabhupada gives another example here of Narada Muni. Narada Muni in his previous life had absolutely no qualifications. He was the son of a maid servant, Dasi Putra, and that indicates that he had committed some so no facilities, but he simply humbly served the devotees of the Lord who were with Bhakti Vedantas, eating the remnants of their footsteps and carrying their orders. He became as elevated as became Narada Muni. That a canto or chapter of Bhagavatam will not go without reference to Narada Muni. This is, Prabhupada says, this is the secret of success. What is the secret of success? For spiritual advancement, the easiest path is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, serve him with heart and soul, and this is the secret of success. And that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes this, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. By serving or receiving the grace of the spiritual master, one receives the grace of the Supreme Lord. And by serving her devotee husband, Kardama Muni, Devotee shared the same achievements. Right? So, one may not be highly qualified in the activity of tapasya, but simply by agreeing to become instrument of such a highly qualified person, one will share the equal results. Similarly, Prabhupada says, a sincere disciple, simply by serving a bona fide spiritual master, can achieve all the mercy of the Lord and the spiritual master simultaneously, double the mercy. So there is mercy of the Lord and the mercy of spiritual master also. Guru Krishna Prasad. Okay, both will happen in the life of such a devotee. So here, Kardama Muni is expressing his gratitude towards Devahūti. Text 8. Anne punarbhagavato भ्रुव उद्विजृंभ विभ्रंशितीर्थार्थरचना किमुरु क्रमस्य सिद्धास्ति भुङ्क्ष्व विभवाभिजन् धर्मदोहान् दिव्यान्नराकैर् दुरधिर् नृप विभिक्रियाभिः. Translation.
Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyments other than Lord's grace? All material achievements are subject to be annihilated simply by a movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By your principles of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy transcendental gifts very rarely obtained by persons proud of aristocracy and material possessions. Purport: Lord Chaitanya recommended that the greatest achievement of human life is to achieve the grace of the Lord, love of God. He said, Prema Pumartho Mahan. To achieve love of Godhead is the highest perfection of life. The same perfection is recommended by Kardama Muni to his wife. His wife belonged to a very aristocratic royal family. Generally, those who are very materialistic or who possesses material wealth and prosperity are unable to appreciate the value of transcendental love of God. Although Devahūti was a princess coming from a very great royal family, fortunately, she was under the supervision of her great husband Kardama Muni, who offered her the best gift which can be bestowed in human life, the grace of the Lord or love of God. This grace of the Lord was achieved by Devahūti by goodwill and satisfaction of her husband. She served her husband, who was a great devotee and saintly person, with great sincerity, love, affection, and service. And Kardama Muni was satisfied. He willingly gave love of God, and he recommended that she accept it and enjoy it because he had already achieved it. Love of God is not an ordinary commodity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was worshipped by Rupa Goswami because he distributed love of God, Krishna Prema, to everyone. Rupa Goswami praised him as Mahavadanya, a great munificent personality, because he was freely distributing to everyone love of Godhead, which is achieved by wise men only after many, many births. Krishna Prema, Krishna consciousness, is the highest gift which can be bestowed on anyone whom we presume to love. The word used in this verse, Nija Dharma Dohan, is very significant. Devahūti, as the wife of Kardama Muni, achieved an invaluable gift from her husband because she was very faithful to him. For a woman, the first principle of religion is to be faithful to her husband. If fortunately the husband is a great personality, then the combination is perfect, and the lives of both the wife and the husband are at once fulfilled. Hare Krishna.
Kardama Muni continued, what is the use of enjoyment other than Lord's grace? So Kardama is very deeply absorbed in spiritual life, and he is always very conscious of the duty of his as the human form of life. All material achievements are subjected to annihilation simply by the movement of the eyebrows of Lord Vishnu. And then he says, by your principle of devotion to your husband, you have achieved and can enjoy the transcendental gift, and such a gift which is very rarely obtained by people with material aristocracy. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the topmost gift recommended is the fifth Purushartha. Generally, people talk of four Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prema is the fifth Purushartha. Prema Pumartho Mahan. Right? So that is the final attainment, that is highest perfection of life. And generally, this is not possible for those who are very, very materialistic. And it is very natural to be materialistic when one is born with great aristocracy. Like Kunti Maharani prays, Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribihi, Yedamana Madhapuman, Naiva Arhati Abhidatum Vaye, Vam Akinchana Gocharaha. That when one is born with great aristocracy, it is but natural to be very, very materialistic. And Kardama Muni here says that, my dear devotee, you are born with such privileges as, extreme beauty, extreme parentage, and still you have served so faithfully, and therefore this fruit which I am enjoying of my devotional service is I am making readily available to you. Prabhupada says, because she served her husband, who was a great devotee and saintly person, Kardama Muni was very satisfied and offered her the same love of God that he had accepted. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in the material world to offer the same love of God to everyone. And that's why Rupa Goswami calls him Namo Mahavadanyaya. Patra apatra na dikhi. Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they will not see who is qualified and who is not qualified. Only qualification is one has to accept the love of God. That's it, and don't reject it. And therefore, he is called as, Mahavadanyaya. When Rupa Goswami is offering prayer to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha. And this love of Godhead, which is attained by Jnanavan, after many, many lifetimes, is very readily made available by the mercy of Sri Sri Gaur Nitai in Parampara. Right? And this is the real labha. So, Nija Dharma Doshan, Prabhupada writes another word here, that Devahūti got this invaluable gift from her husband, and this gift is love of Godhead. And this is how Prabhupada says, if the husband and wife, they cooperate with each other in the family life like this, or in a broader sense, if a disciple cooperates with his spiritual master who is advanced in spiritual life, all his desires will be at once fulfilled. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. So today is a very auspicious day of Narasimha Jayanti. नरसिम्हदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Thank you everyone. Thank you Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, everyone.
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare
So
Krishna.
yesterday we had a
Thank you,
nice
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Narasimha
Dandavat
Nama Yajna also, and we prayed for everyone. So thank you for joining the same. Yes, Leadership Prabhu.
Prabhu, you were saying about Devahūti getting the same result, or what we can say, the goal. Same, uh, same like love of Godhead, same as Kardama Muni. But Kardama Muni was completely realized about what he was getting. Devahūti was not. I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm just thinking. She didn't understand what she was, the value of what she was getting. Also, is that my understanding correct?
Yeah, broadly. Why? Because later we will see, naturally, Devavati, she was requesting for a child. And, there in couple of purports, Prabhupada is going to write this. At the same time, simply there is a difference between understanding and realizing. Correct.
Yes, sir.
So, and also there is what we want to point out here in the discussion is there is importance of being age appropriate as well.
Okay.
So one may be receiving the highest thing in one's life. Like recently, I don't know whether I should speak this or not, because I categorically avoid any controversy, typically. But this really, I mean, recently there was a video of a six-year-old, very wonderful child, and speaking about self-realization, this and this and this and this, and talking about death and life after death. So in a way, I was very pained to hear that, and I did not see it also fully. Because, they, of course, no doubt, Prahlad Maharaj recommends Kaumara Macharit Pragyo and everything. But the advancement and one's practice should be age appropriate. Prahlad Maharaj is not a, day-to-day phenomena, right? We cannot expect our child to be Prahlad or something like that.
Yes.
So, I mean, what I want to say, recently I was hearing one very nice quote. It says that if you are in your 20s and if you are talking about work-life balance, then you please check your association, right? So, right, a boy in 20 cannot be talking about work-life balance. He has to work extremely hard. So that age appropriateness is very important, even in spiritual life. Like one boy, I always tell this in my class, that there are, because I teach in an engineering class, there are people who are becoming devotees and everything, and we don't want people to make the mistakes that apparently we also made in a way, for the lack of for whatever it is, and that is to neglect their studies, misquoting the verse Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma krita hai, and this is like abusing of devotional service. So here Devavati is also very aptly justified, because she is of that age and she want to go through the experience of being a mother, and yes, and that's how she is awarded the child. And who is the child is Kapila Muni himself. So whether that desire to have a child is material or spiritual, it is absolute spiritual desire, right? If you have a desire and the Supreme Lord comes to your house as a child, then how that desire can be material, whose fruit is very spiritual? So it has to be age appropriate. That what I would say is, it has to be age appropriate. One should not overplay something like simply reading Bhagavad Gita and we get such zombies out of preaching our Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We want people who will, according to their psychophysical nature, they will very strongly contribute to the world. Of course, 1% of them will become brahmacharis, and look at the brahmacharis that we have. Look at the people like Radhesham Prabhu, Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, Gaurang Prabhu, Revatipati Prabhu, right? These are very powerful people and they are extremely hardworking. It is not that they are escaping hard work in hard work in the name of devotional service. According to their psychophysical nature, according to their spiritual advancement, they are in particular ashram, they are in brahmachari ashram and not having any material pursuit in one way. But within that ashram also, they are extremely hardworking. I know one instance that, that our one devotee, Revatipati Prabhu, one fine day, it was after temple opening, he was about to faint in the temple hall. That much of a hard work. Similarly, Sri Guru Charan Prabhu, Murari Prabhu, we had Bal Govind Prabhu. Extreme level of hard work. So, what one can see this, the hard work should not be minimized. That is very important. Otherwise, the psychophysical nature only will push you towards something which will do otherwise, contrary to one's nature. And that's what Krishna's point to Arjuna is. Arjuna says that, my dear Arjuna, you are saying, you are taking a great compassion and want to become a beggar, but your neither your psychophysical nature is of a beggar. You are a powerful Kshatriya. In fact, Arjuna was such a Kshatriya, it was very difficult to hide him. And therefore, this entire pastime of cursing him, that he becomes like a Brihannala and somehow he's hidden, his Kshatra Tej is hidden inside, the inner quarters of, the king of Virat. Because he was very difficult to hide. So how one will undo one's psychophysical nature? And he says that you want to become a beggar. If you go to begging in the forest and you will say, Bhavati Bhikshande, somebody will laugh at you and insult you. That time you will take your bow and arrow and you will shoot him. So you cannot change your nature. And from this context, it comes Nigraham Kim Karishyasi. Right. At times, even as a devotee community, some of us have misunderstood this verse to think that the nature cannot be changed. Right. The nature, by becoming devotee, we engage the nature in devotional service. Barabar?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, purpose of devotional service is not to change your nature. Purpose of devotional service is to dovetail the nature in devotional service. Like there is one devotee family, that they have particular nature. And by becoming devotee, that nature is dovetailed. And Krishna consciousness is so far and wide that anything can be dovetailed in Krishna service, practically. Right. Practically any nature, we have a seva. Somebody is a very Kshatriya kind of a seva. We give him the security service. And this devotee, one day he caught some chappal chore kind of a thing, and he was just beating him left and right. And we were thinking that, and then he was enjoying that devotional service of beating the chore. Right. So one thing is, what are the points here are, one thing is being age appropriate. Second thing is, one cannot change one's nature, and neither devotional service is meant to change one's nature. So, this is the misconception we have. Conditioning is not called as nature. So one has to differentiate between one's conditioning and one's nature. Prabhuji, I become very angry. That is my nature. No. Becoming angry is not nature. Becoming angry is conditioning. Right. So becoming angry is not nature. Becoming angry is conditioning. Becoming angry can be changed. But somebody is inherently like a cow. Somebody is inherently like a lion. Somebody is inherently like a horse. And you can, by performing devotional service, you cannot change horse into a cow and cow into an elephant. This is simply a misplaced understanding of devotional service. Right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So that is the point. So one way, Prabhupada once he told his disciples, he said that you simply do not know that all of you are already liberated by chanting Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada, that did not mean that Prabhupada wanted them to realize that they are all liberated, give up their service, go in some Himalaya and just sit in idle. Prabhupada said, no, work before, there is work before Samadhi. So we may not realize what we have received. And what is the danger of that? We may not take it very, very seriously. But by realizing what we have received, we should not become inactive. That is very important. Neither we should act transgressing one's age. Neither we should justify our laziness in the name of devotional service. And this is very easy to happen. In fact, that's what we see in the discussion of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna talks about Sthita Pragya. The immediate next question Arjuna is asking, my dear Lord, first you say fight the war, then you say become Sthita Pragya. What should I do? Krishna said you should be internally Sthita Pragya, externally warrior. Right?
Okay,
so, and then he gives the fourth chapter. Again, fifth chapter, Arjuna has the question. एक बार बोलो, either should I renounce? Arjuna says, Krishna says, no. Internally you should be renounced, externally you should be a warrior, fight. So there is always a tendency of a living entity. Arjuna is a pure devotee, he's just exemplifying our nature, to find an excuse and take a easy path. And Bhagavad Gita time to time will take, will course correct and will say that no, you have to do it properly. You have, whatever is your psychophysical nature, whatever is your age, be age appropriate in expressing your advancement of Krishna consciousness. Devotee, naturally, she was very happy. She saw around, she saw the Vaikuntha and everything. And then her husband also asked a benediction. She said, I want a child. And that was very natural. And we are very thankful to Devotee for having that desire. And that's why we have, Kapila Muni. And the way you will relish the, the later chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, the discussion between Kapila and Devahūti. The best of the verses of Bhagavatam, they come from that section. And that section comes because Kapila is here. And Kapila is here because Devahūti had that desire. Right? So now you tell me, Devahūti's desire is legitimate or illegitimate?
Of course, legitimate.
Ah, right. Glorious. So this is very important thing. One has to be age appropriate. One has to understand psychophysical nature. Understanding that purpose of devotional service is not to change your nature. Purpose of devotional service is to engage your nature. Realizing that conditioning is not the nature. Okay, conditioning is different than the nature. And then performing one's devotional service, patiently waiting for, we passing from one phase to another. Now you are also practicing bhakti for 20 years, right? You also know what we were 15, 20 years back, and our concept of devotional life, then as we also age through, as we also approaching our 50, in some cases, 40, or later, we will be approaching our 60s. The things also have changed in our life. Things also have evolved in our lives. And that natural realization will naturally come. We don't have to force feed that realization. Correct?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
All the grace of Shamlila, Prabhu. Those started 20 years back didn't really progress much, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So this is how exactly you are summarizing, Lord is concealing your advancement. Natural humility. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Hari Om, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Mataji, Prabhuji, this is fine to excuse. And other words, what you say, Prabhuji? Is it eternally sthita and externally you have to fight of warriors, and afterwards it says find the excuse.
We should not find any excuse that, not to perform one's activity and take an easy path.
Okay.
Generally, what happens, people will find an excuse and they want to take an easy path. What is that easy path? Easy path, what they think is renunciation, but that is the easy path of being irresponsible.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So person wants to quote some spiritual life. The mother will say, see, Prabhuji, I want to do such devotional service, but I have a child. What can I do? So so in the excuse of devotional service, she is becoming irresponsible. And this is the actually abuse to devotional service. This is actually aparadh. So one should not find easy path in the name of devotional service.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.